So I will go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So you should be seeing a blue screen that says US holidays. Everyone sees that? Okay, perfect. So I will start with a brief introduction of myself and then go over today's agenda. And then hopefully we will have some time at the end of the lesson too, if you guys have any additional questions that were not answered throughout the lesson. So here is an introduction of myself. So as Christina mentioned, I was formerly an English teaching assistant last year, and unfortunately, I had to leave the Czech Republic in March during the COVID outbreak. So I had to leave early, but I was really happy for the time that I got to spend in the Czech Republic, and I lived in Přerov, and I taught at the gymnasium and pedagogical school there. I am originally from Connecticut, so I will also be describing some of for accessibility for everyone watching. So in the top right-hand corner here, I have a map of the United States, and you can see this tiny little state highlighted in red. This is Connecticut, so that's where I'm from, and that is where I am currently coming to you on Zoom today. And I am also a graduate student at a Syracuse University in New York. I am studying international relations, and this is my holiday break. So I understand, like all of you, what it's like to be a student, and I'm sure we're all very much looking forward, students and teachers, all looking forward to the holiday break this year, especially in Corona times. And I just wanted to also share some favorite parts of my time in the Czech Republic really briefly. This photo here is a photo of myself and two other Fulbright English teaching assistants, and we're all wearing some blue collared shirts and standing in front of a large sign which says Special Olympics 50. And this was from a volunteering opportunity that we participated in Zlín in the beginning of our time in the Czech Republic. So this was a really wonderful volunteer opportunity for us right when we arrived in the Czech Republic in the fall and got to learn about Special Olympics in the Czech Republic, which is something that I care a lot about in the United States. So that was a great opportunity. And then this photo down at the bottom is a photo of myself in a black jacket and black jeans and in a bright yellow classroom, and probably happy to be studying English. And those are some of my students. And we are studying some English in the textbook. And this was from my time as the English teaching assistant in the gymnasium. So these are just a few photos and snapshot of myself. And then just to go into the agenda for today. So we're gonna cover 8 main holidays. I wanna review some helpful vocabulary that I think will be good to remember when you're thinking about each holiday, and some phrases or some themes that you can refer back to when you're trying to think about what to say or what to talk about for these maturity topics. And I hope that maybe one holiday or a couple holidays stand out to you and you can remember some of the topics that we discussed today. And then as Christina mentioned, there's also a worksheet that was sent around. And if you don't have the worksheet, don't worry, because I've also incorporated it into the slides today. So what we'll do is basically review some vocab and topics of each holiday, and then we'll take a pause and complete that section of the worksheet. And then at the end of today's lesson, you can have that completed worksheet to serve as a study guide or review material after today's lesson. And hopefully that will be helpful for you to go back to after today. And then hopefully we will also have some time at the end in case there's any more questions or review. So how does that sound to everyone? Good? And then maybe Christina could also launch our first poll. And I just wanted to get a sense of how you guys feel about the topic of US holidays right now before the lesson. And you can be honest. So we're just gonna ask you to answer the first question in this poll. And there's 3 options. You feel very confident about US holidays, you know a lot about them, the vocab. you feel a little bit confident, somehow confident, or not very confident. And any of these answers are, of course, okay. So anyone who's on Zoom can just take a minute and respond to this poll. Okay, thank you. Some of the answers here coming in. And so we're going to refer back to this poll at the end of the lesson as well. And hopefully you will feel, if you're in the very confident bracket, you can feel even more confident, the most confident. If you're in the not very confident or a little bit confused, hopefully you have some more tools after today's lesson to feel at least a little bit more comfortable talking or thinking about the US holidays. Okay, thank you guys. So I'll just share those. So we will launch into our warm-up here today. So I wanted to give us a second before we launch into all of the information and vocabulary, just to start thinking about some of the holidays and some of the main definitions. So you can see here on the screen, there are 6 holidays here, and you might not know some of them or feel comfortable with more, that's okay. So for those that are in the Zoom, I'll give you guys about 2 minutes here and try and match the definition of the holiday with the name of the holiday here. And once you've done that, if you feel comfortable, could you please share in the chat of Zoom which number corresponds to which letter? So you would write 1 and either A, B, C, D, E, or F. Okay, so I'll give you guys a few minutes to take a look at this, and then we will come back together and then we'll get into the topics of today. Okay, thank you. I see some answers coming in here in the chat. Good, okay. I'll give everyone about 1 more minute. Good, you guys are already looking really good with the answers here. Great. Okay, so it looks like most people have submitted in the Zoom box, in the Zoom chat, and hopefully for those watching on YouTube, you can complete this either independently or with someone who's watching, but we will now take a second and just talk about the answers here. So it looks like most people in the Zoom chat got everything right, so that's great. So the first holiday, Passover, is, yes, B, a Jewish holiday that celebrates freedom of Jewish people in Egypt. And we'll be talking about this holiday later in the lesson. 2, Christmas. I think everyone feels confident with Christmas. Christian holiday celebrated on December 25th, coming up, great. Number 3, Easter. Yes, Easter is D, a Christian holiday with eggs and bunnies as important symbols. 4, 4th of July. And yes, this is C, celebrates the independence of the USA. Number 5, St. Patrick's Day. And you guys also got this one. E, a day to celebrate Ireland's patron saint. And Hanukkah, 6. And this is F, a Jewish holiday celebrated in December. So thank you guys for doing this warm up and for those that participated in the Zoom chat. And so this is just a way to get your brain thinking about some of the definitions and back into this topic. And now we will begin with the holiday of Christmas and review some vocabulary and some helpful hints. So as some of you may know, Christmas Eve and Christmas Day correspond to different main days in the United States. So I know from my time learning in the Czech Republic that the main Christmas day, I think, is the 24th. But here in the US, the main fifth Christmas Day, and we call the 24th Christmas Eve. And as we're going over this slide, if you have the worksheet in front of you, as we're discussing these topics, you can also begin to fill in the blanks as we go along, just to make a note about that. So as is similar in the Czech Republic, in the United States, people get Christmas trees. And many times people and families can go to a Christmas tree farm and cut down a tree. And then they would have a real tree in their house, or you can also have a fake tree or artificial tree. So I think that this is also similar to the Czech Republic. So sometimes it's helpful to think about, you know, Christmas, there's a lot of similar traditions to the Czech Republic, the Christmas tree and some of the traditions. So it can be helpful when you're thinking about this holiday or this topic to compare it to the Czech Republic and certain traditions in your own Christmas time if you celebrate Christmas as well. So another common part of Christmas in the United States is that houses and buildings are decorated with lights. So this photo that I have here on the right-hand side, if you take a look at this, there's a pole. This is actually my house. There is a white pole here, and there are a bunch of Christmas lights around it. So it's very common for people in the United States to decorate the front of their house, either on their house or in some bushes or trees in front of their house, as well as inside their house. And then this is also a hanging ball of Christmas tree material called a Christmas ball. And we have this also hanging in my house. So I just wanted to give you a little glimpse of my Christmas in my house. And another common tradition, which you might know, I learned that the children in the Czech Republic write the letters to, and I think it's Ježíšek. You can forgive my pronunciation, but children in the United States write letters to Santa Claus. And I have an example down here. So the photo on the bottom of my screen has 2 plates, and there is a piece of paper that says, "Dear Santa," on the top. So children will either write the letter and leave it in their house, or they can also mail a letter in the mail to Santa Claus and address it to the North Pole, and it goes somewhere. And then another common tradition, as I have here on the photo, is that children or families will leave cookies for Santa on a plate and carrots for his reindeer. So these are the animals that pull Santa's sleigh. So children will often leave the carrots so that Santa can give them to the reindeer, and they leave the cookies and maybe a cup of milk, as you can see in the photo down here, for Santa Claus to eat and drink. So as you can imagine, the parents will usually take a bite of the cookie or take a bite of the reindeer's carrots, and then the children know that Santa Claus has come to their house. And then the last piece here of Christmas is that it's typical to either eat ham or fish or some other type of meat for Christmas dinner, but it really depends on the family. So it's not like, I know in the Czech Republic, it's very common to eat carp on Christmas, but in the US, it really depends on the family. So it can be either ham or fish or something like this. And then the last photo I have on here is just my family. So there's 4 people, and this was our Christmas last year in Prague. So unfortunately, we can't go to Prague this year. So they came and visited me in the Czech Republic last year. And we had a really nice Christmas last year in the Czech Republic, learning about some of the Czech traditions. So they really enjoyed that. Okay, so now I will give you guys a couple more photos just for fun. These are another example of some of the letters to Santa Claus. So one child here says, Santa, you better bring my pony, my horse this year, or there will be consequences. So some children could be a little bit strict with Santa. Another child wrote down here, Dear Santa, please text my dad. He has my whole list. So this child wants Santa to text his dad because his dad knows what he wants. And then on the right-hand side here, you can see what Santa Claus looks like. So he has the big red hat, the big white beard, the red coat. And then down here, you can also see there is a photo of Santa and his sleigh and with the reindeer. So these are awesome. Common tradition is to send Christmas cards in the mail. So a lot of US families will also send a Christmas card with some photos of their family. And I just included one example of my family's Christmas card. This is me and my younger brother. So there's a couple photos in black and white of me and my brother here. And in the middle says, have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. So it's very common to send these cards in the mail, and families can send the cards, and then you also receive a lot of cards from your family members or friends with the pictures of their family. So these are just a couple of the examples from my life and some real life examples of a US Christmas. For those of you who want some more practice and a fun way to practice, we don't have time, unfortunately, to do it today. But when I was in the Czech Republic, this was a pretty popular activity with some of my students. And it's this website called lyricstraining.com. And you can type in different songs in English. It doesn't have to just be Christmas songs, but there are a lot of Christmas songs, including here you can see Last Christmas, the famous song. And it's a game where you listen to the song and you type in the missing words. So you can see here at the bottom, there are some missing words. So the first one would be Last Christmas. And you can type it in and have some practice for listening. So I think if anyone's looking for a fun way to practice on your own, this website is really helpful. So I just wanted to share this resource if anyone was interested in that. Okay, so now I'll give you guys just a brief minute. This was part of the worksheet. So for those who don't have the worksheet, you can look at the screen here, which has some of the fill in the blanks. So hopefully after what we just briefly and quickly went through, you can think about which words fill in the blank, and you also have a word bank. So hopefully that does make it a little bit easier. So just take a minute, and if anyone who's on the Zoom wants to chat in their answers to the blanks, you can go right ahead and we'll review in about a minute. So take your time. Hopefully it's a little bit straightforward with the Christmas one. Okay, so just in the for the essence of time, I just want to review some of the first blanks here. So if anyone wants to write it in the chat, I saw some people wrote in the chat, or if you just want to unmute yourself, for those on Zoom, you're welcome to do this. So the main Christmas day is, I see some in the chat, or if anyone wants to unmute yourself, you can, the 25th of December. So this is the main Christmas day. And then you see here, some people cut their own Christmas trees and they decorate. I see in the chat, many people got this one, decorate the tree with ornaments. Those are the items that you put on the tree, and lights. Children write letters to Santa Claus about what presents they want, and they leave a plate of cookies for Santa and carrots for his reindeer, which many of you got. And then many people send Christmas cards in the mail with photos of their family. So I'll just click on this and you can see the completed worksheet here. So many of you got all of these. So these are just some helpful vocab words and to think about when you're thinking about Christmas in the US. So any questions about any of these words before we go on to the next holiday? Okay. Okay, so the next holiday we'll move on to is Easter. So we could do the same thing. You can look at the worksheet and we'll review some of the vocabulary. So a common part of Easter in the United States is the Easter bunny. So I have a photo of a little bit creepy looking maybe Easter bunny on the bottom of the screen. And if anyone can maybe guess where this is, maybe this white building is a hint in the back, also connected to another Maturita topic. So this is at the White House Easter egg hunt. So we'll talk about that in a moment. But there is usually an Easter bunny. They can be at a shopping mall or at different children's events, and someone is dressed up to look like a bunny. So the Easter bunny rabbit is a famous symbol of Easter. There is also something called an Easter egg hunt. And this is not a hunt in the usual sense of the word, but children search for, if you see the photo down here, I have a couple of colored eggs with some candy inside. So there are plastic eggs which are filled with candy, and they are hidden in the yard or in the garden. So families or parents will hide these eggs in the garden or inside the house, and children will go on an Easter egg hunt. So they will run and search and maybe push each other and try and find all of the eggs, and then they can collect the candy which is inside these eggs. So Easter egg hunts are very popular for children as well. And then another activity which is really common with Easter in the United States is to decorate Easter eggs. So the photo that I have here on the top right, which has a lot of colorful eggs in a pink bucket, and it's common to color or dye these eggs. So children can either color on them or you can dip them in a color, and then these are real eggs which can be used for decoration around Easter time. So these are just three of the main topics that you can think about when you're thinking about Easter in the US. So now this is a little bit shorter fill in the blank, but there's two blanks here. So I'll give you maybe 30 seconds to think about this one. So Easter is also celebrated by Christians in the US. Children usually decorate and color Easter something. And many parents hide candy inside, and children can go on an Easter egg something. So for those on Zoom, I see some of the chats are coming in. This was a little bit easier. Good. Everyone feels comfortable with this. So perfect. Yes. The first blank is eggs. So children decorate and color Easter eggs, and they go on an Easter egg hunt. So you can remember this too. They go on is the verb which we use connected with the Easter egg hunt. And it's not a real hunt. They're just looking for plastic Easter eggs with candy inside. Okay. So any questions about Easter or this vocabulary before we keep moving on. No, everyone feels good. Okay. So the next holiday is the 4th of July. So this is also called Independence Day in the US. So sometimes you can hear either title of the holiday. So this remembers the date July 4th of 1776, where the US became independent from Great Britain. So this is a really big celebration in the United States. I have some photos here on the slide. The first one is a parade. So many towns or cities will have different parades where people walk in the street. They might have a band. On the bottom photo here, there's a couple of men dressed in old Revolutionary War costumes, and there are a lot of American flags. So you can see in the first photo, these look like some Boy Scouts, similar to the Scouts in the Czech Republic, and they are walking in the parade, all holding different types of American flags. And then each town will usually have parades. People will have cookouts or barbecues. So you can imagine there's a lot of hot dogs and hamburgers and French fries and all of the typical foods there. And then in the parades, but also all of the buildings and government buildings, schools, people's houses. A lot of people put up an American flag in their house. So there's a lot of American flags around this time. And there are also fireworks. So on the bottom of the screen here, I have a photo which says Happy 4th of July with some fireworks colorful in the background. This is also a very common celebration on the 4th of July, fireworks. So there's a really big fireworks display in Washington, D.C., the capital, but also a lot of towns and cities around the United States will also have fireworks. Sometimes, even though it's illegal, sometimes people will also set off fireworks in their backyard. So this can be, fireworks are a really common theme connected to 4th of July. Okay, so there's a couple of blanks here. You can take a minute and look at this on the screen or complete it on your own worksheet. And we will come back in about a minute for these ones. Okay, so we have some answers coming in now. And I just want to take a minute and go back to the word parade also. So this word parade, and this is more about, so there can be big parades or small parades, but they're basically people walking in the street. And there's usually a lot of music, and there could be dancing or other activities in the street when people are walking. And it's typical for the 4th of July, or they also have some for, if anyone knows the holiday, like Memorial Day in the United States, where we remember people who have died in wars in the United States. So this is just a common celebration where people are all usually walking in the streets, and people sit on the side of the street and watch. And there can be a band or music. And for the parades in the 4th of July, a lot of people are waving American flags on the side of the street as well. So it's usually in the street. They shut down the streets in a town, and this is a really common activity around 4th of July. So just to explain that. Okay, so it looks like a lot of people feel good about these words. So I will reveal the answers. So the 4th of July remembers this day. So if you're thinking about what to remember for talking about the 4th of July, you could start by talking about how it remembers this day in 1776. And then you can talk about which country the United States became free from. Free from is the same way to say independent. So you can either say the US became independent from Great Britain. So Great Britain used to be in control of the US and then it wasn't. Or you can say just the United States became independent and it's Independence Day. So this is the other way to say 4th of July. And then some of these other words like we described, parades, fireworks, and American flags hanging on flagpoles. And those are just those tall poles, a lot of times in front of a school or a big building, which has the flag hanging. But like I mentioned, the flags can be anywhere. So they can be on someone's house or in the street or anywhere as well. So any questions about 4th of July or clarification on any of these other vocabulary words? No, feeling good. Okay, so we'll keep moving on. Halloween is on October 31st. This is a really popular holiday in the United States, and I have some photos. So adults can dress up and choose a costume. So this word costume, and if you think about some of the types of costumes, you can see in this photo down on the right-hand side, there's 4 small children and they're carrying little pumpkin buckets. And you can see one is dressed as a pumpkin, or you can dress up as a witch, the person who has like the pointy hat and does magic. But children can also dress up as a favorite TV character or an animal or anything. So they make costumes for everything these days. And children and adults can also dress up in costumes as well. So this is a common part of Halloween. There's also, as we talked about parades, there is also a costume parade at school. So usually children can walk around in the school and they walk around in one line and they show off their costumes to each other. So this was really common at my primary school. So all the children walk in the street or inside the classrooms, and they all wear their costumes to school on October 31st. So it's a really fun part of school for the young children during this time. Maybe some of you have heard this word, trick-or-treating. And this is when children on Halloween, they go to different houses in their neighborhood and they ring the doorbell, and the person opens the door and all the children say trick or treat. And then the person at the house gives all the children candy. And then the children walk to the next house. So they collect candy at each house. And this is what this photo shows as well. So the children will walk up together, ring the doorbell, say trick or treat, and then they get the candy. So this comes from the history. Sometimes people used to do a trick, or they would get a treat, or they could put a trick on someone else. But nowadays, children just usually say trick or treat and they get candy. So children go trick-or-treating. This is not typical for adults to go trick-or-treating. And then the other big part of Halloween is pumpkins. So you can see down on the bottom of the screen, I have some pumpkins which are carved. So carving is like the same thing as cutting. So you use a knife and you cut or carve the pumpkins. So you can make a face or you can make a design. And then if you put a candle inside the pumpkin, then you call it a jack-o'-lantern. So this is this word here on the screen, jack-o'-lantern. And this is when there's a candle inside the pumpkin. So at nighttime, you can see the pumpkins and they're lit up on the inside and there's a face on them. So regular pumpkins don't have faces. You can remember the jack-o'-lantern has the face and the candle on the inside. So it's like a special type of pumpkin. And then just up here on the right-hand side, I have a couple more photos here just of some other symbols of Halloween, if that helps you remember it more. So there's like a skull here with some bones. There's a witch's hat, the pointy type of hat, a graveyard, a black cat. So some of these like spooky things, and the main colors of Halloween you can maybe see here are the black and orange. So if any of these things also help you remember Halloween, these are some more topics to think about other than these activities. Okay, so again, we will move on now to the 3 fill in the blanks. So take a moment and read if you are on YouTube, or you can complete it on your own worksheet again. And if you have any questions, please unmute yourself and chime in, or you can type it in the chat box as well. Okay, so it looks like the correct answers are coming through on the chat here. So everyone's doing a great job on Zoom. Thank you for participating. Okay, so it looks like we have a couple more answers here. So I will reveal the correct words. So like we talked about, on this day, children usually dress up. So this is also the verb which you can use connected to costumes. They dress up in costumes and go trick-or-treating for candy. And you can also carve pumpkins with a knife and put the candle inside. And as we discussed, those special pumpkins are called jack-o'-lanterns. So if you remember any of these words or also activities, or you can talk about some of the colors of Halloween, these are all good topics to discuss when you're thinking about Halloween in the US. Any questions about Halloween before we move to Thanksgiving? Okay. So Thanksgiving is the 4th Thursday in November. So this is a little tricky. Some of the other holidays have the same day every year. Thanksgiving changes every year, the exact day, but it's always the 4th Thursday or the last Thursday in November. This is the time to remember the Pilgrims, who were the people who sailed from Great Britain over to the United States. And the Native Americans. So these were the people, I think sometimes the translation is also to Indian or American Indian, but we usually say either American Indian or Native American. So these are the people who were already living on the land of the United States back in like the 1600s. So because this holiday remembers a dinner between the Pilgrims, the people who came to the United States, and the Native Americans who were already living there. But a lot of Native Americans in the United States do not celebrate Thanksgiving because they remember the Pilgrims coming, and they remember this holiday as a sad time because many of the Pilgrims killed and destroyed the land. And so it's not as much of a happy holiday for Native Americans in the US. So actually some Native Americans choose to celebrate the National Day of Mourning. So mourning like sadness, or sadness is the good word to describe it. So this is just something to think about when you think about Thanksgiving. It's not necessarily always the happy dinner shared between Pilgrims and Native Americans. It's a really complicated and usually sad part of the history as well. So I just wanted to mention that, not connected to the always happy dinner shared between them. But people who celebrate Thanksgiving in the US often have some traditions, such as talking about what you are grateful for. So grateful can also mean thankful, so connected to Thanksgiving. And it's something which you appreciate about your life. So this Thanksgiving, a lot of us were really grateful for our health or maybe our family. So this is a common, everyone can go around the dinner table and say something that they're grateful for. And as you might know, the Thanksgiving dinner is a really big part of Thanksgiving. So I have a photo here on the right-hand side, which has the big turkey in the middle, mashed potatoes. So this white substance on the bottom right-hand corner. There's also stuffing. Stuffing is like pieces of bread, but there's also spices, and you eat it with the turkey. So that's what stuffing is. There's a photo of it right here on the right-hand side. It looks like some mashed bread and nuts, maybe spices. And then there's lots of pie for dessert. So on the left-hand side, there's pecan pie. And on the top here, you can see in a couple of small little blocks, it says Happy Thanksgiving. And as you also might know, Black Friday shopping is a popular part of the Thanksgiving time. So if Thanksgiving is held on the last Thursday, Black Friday is the Friday after Thanksgiving. So this has a lot of deals and discounts and shopping, and people try and get all of the discounts that they can on Black Friday. So this is another part connected to Thanksgiving, which you can think about. Okay, so there's also a turkey pardon. I'm not sure if anyone has heard of this tradition. On the top hand, you can see former President Trump holding his hand over the big white turkey outside of the White House. And on the bottom, you can see former President Barack Obama, and he's clapping in front of a turkey here. Each Thanksgiving, a turkey is chosen from a farm in the US. So there's one lucky turkey who gets chosen. And the president has a ceremony, or basically some special event, where they pardon. So this word pardon means save. So he says, okay, this turkey will not be eaten on Thanksgiving for Thanksgiving dinner. So I will save this turkey. They have a special ceremony at the White House. They clap for the turkey, and then the turkey goes back to the farm. So the turkey is not eaten on the Thanksgiving day. So if you're interested in more about this, you can Google it on YouTube. They have some funny videos of the ceremony, but this is just another funny part of American Thanksgiving, is the turkey pardon by the president. So here are the 3 blanks, and I'll give you about 30 seconds for this one, just because we're reaching the end of more towards the end of the lesson. So I'll give you 30 seconds, and you can type in the chat or unmute yourself if you want to. Okay, so it looks like a lot of the Zoom chat participants got the answers right. So I will move over here to the next slide. So again, around this time, the Pilgrims, those were the people from Great Britain, sailed to the US and they met Native Americans. So these are the two main groups of Thanksgiving. And as we said, people usually eat turkey for Thanksgiving dinner. So this is the main meal for the Thanksgiving dinner. So great, thank you for those who participated. And next we'll move on to Hanukkah. So Hanukkah is a Jewish holiday which lasts for 8 days. And this holiday also changes date, the exact date every year, but usually it's around Christmas. So this year it was before Christmas, so in December. This holiday celebrates the Jewish victory against the Greeks for religious freedom. And I have included on the screen here some main photos. So if we look here, I'm not sure if anyone could recognize this food, but I think they have some version of it in the Czech Republic, which is potato pancakes. So they're called latkes. So this word latka. So these are eaten around Hanukkah time, and they're the potato pancakes, but a smaller version. And then this item right here is a menorah. So as I mentioned, there are 8 nights, and then on the last night, you also can light this candle in the middle. But every night, families will light a candle on their menorah. Or just light up. This is the common part of Hanukkah. And children can also play games with this top. It's basically like a spinning top toy, and it's called a dreidel. So each side has a different word or symbol, and children can spin it and win chocolate candy. So this is also a common tradition. So this is Hanukkah. There's also a menorah lighting at the White House. So maybe this is interesting to you as well. So there's another ceremony here at the White House, and this is former President Barack Obama again. And they invite different people to the White House and they light the menorah in the White House as well. So this is another tradition part of Hanukkah. And then the second Jewish holiday is called Passover. So this holiday celebrates the freedom of the Jewish people from slavery. So when they were slaves, AKA like forced to work, or they were owned by people. So this is a celebration. And I have a photo here of the parting of the sea, and it says celebrate Passover. People are walking through, and this holiday also lasts for 8 days. It's usually in April or in the springtime. And Jewish people during this time don't eat bread because during this time there was not enough time for the bread to rise. So instead they eat matzah. This is this photo here. It looks more like a cracker. It's a very thin bread and it hasn't been allowed to rise. So during the holiday of Passover, to remember this, Jewish people do not eat bread, but they instead eat this matzah. So it just looks more like a larger cracker. It's flaky, and they can also put it into soup. And this is just a common food. So it's again here, and it's called matzah. So now we will move on to the worksheet just for these 2 Jewish holidays. And Hanukkah and Passover, I think I gave away the first, the first clue. So I'll give you a couple moments and you can again type in the chat using the word bank. Hopefully it's getting easier now that you're using up more of the words from the word bank. Okay, yep, so everyone's getting these answers. So I will reveal this. So they are both Jewish holidays celebrated. They last for 8 days. During Passover, Jewish people cannot eat bread. Instead, they eat matzah. So good, everybody Everybody got those ones. Okay, and now to finish up, I thank you guys so much for, I know we're moving through a lot of topics and there's a lot of information, but hopefully you're enjoying the lesson. So this is our last holiday, and this is St. Patrick's Day, which happens on March 17th. And I have some photos here on the slide, so I'll talk about those as we go through. So this remembers the patron saint of Ireland. So the word patron saint is like the main religious saint connected with the country. So I'm pretty sure that is the patron saint of the Czech Republic. I think it's Saint Wenceslas? Maybe not. It is? Okay, I see Christina nodding, thank you. So that you can remember that the patron saint of Ireland is St. Patrick. So this holiday in the US is important, especially for Irish immigrants. An immigrant is someone who moves from their country to another country. So this is this word immigrant. So there were many people who moved to the United States from Ireland. And so this day can be very important because it remembers St. Patrick, and he was originally from Great Britain, and then he was part of Ireland, and then Ireland remembers him and honors him. So because there are many Irish people living in the United States, this holiday is also important in the United States. There are also some important symbols. The first is a shamrock. So that is on the bottom left of the screen. It's also called a clover, and these are a symbol of luck. So this shamrock is considered lucky and a very important part of St. Patrick's Day. The green color is also an important part of St. Patrick's Day. This photo that I have here with a large bridge and a river, which is green. So you are seeing this correctly. This is in Chicago, and every year on St. Patrick's Day, they dye the river green color for St. Patrick's Day. So green is the main color. So you can see that from the river. And then there is also this little man, a leprechaun. So the spelling doesn't really match the pronunciation, but it's called leprechaun. And it's from the myth, and he is usually a small man who lives at the end of a rainbow. And he sits on a black pot of gold, and he is also considered lucky. So this leprechaun, he wears the green hat and some red hair, and he has a small pipe. So some people can dress up as the leprechaun, or there's photos of leprechauns everywhere during the St. Patrick's Day. So this was another common symbol, leprechaun. Okay, so the last fill in the blank. So we have two words here. So I'll give you a little bit less time because hopefully these are the last words in the word bank. So maybe that makes it a little bit easier. So again, the last ones, okay, yep, looks like everybody has put their, good. All right. Thank you, everyone. Yes, so the first blank is Ireland. So the patron saint of Ireland. And why is this day celebrated in the US? It's because there are many Irish immigrants who moved to the United States. And then we talked about some of the main symbols. So thank you guys very much for listening to all of these holidays. I wanted to, if Christina could maybe launch the poll again. And there are two more questions from the first part, and you can answer now. What is your favorite US holiday? So we've only given 3 options here. So you can choose from these 3. So the options are 4th of July, Halloween, and Thanksgiving. So I can see some of the answers coming in. Looks like Halloween is in the lead. That makes sense. Okay, so great, you can see those answers. So Halloween was the winner. So that was great. And then maybe also the next question, which is after today's lesson and after some of the topics that we discussed, do you feel more comfortable, much more comfortable talking about any of these holidays? Maybe a little bit more comfortable, or you could also still be confused. So any of those answers are fine. So we'll give everyone a second to answer this one. Okay, well that's a good result I'm seeing here. So you can see, yay, this is very good then. A lot of people feel much more comfortable talking about US holidays. And we still have people who are a bit more comfortable, but thankfully no one is still confused. So that's the main part of what we wanted to do today. So I had written in here, this was also if anyone wanted to share a word or something that they learned, but you don't have to do that if you don't want to. But I just wanted to say thank you guys for your attention. And if anyone has, we can have some time now for some questions, but I just wanted to say if we don't get to your question or if you still have questions, my contact information, I put my email here, so you can feel free, please, to send me an email if you have any questions or if you want to ask anything about the lesson or US holidays or any other Maturita topics. I would be happy to answer any of those questions. So thank you guys, and maybe we can, I'll stop sharing my screen so I